years, they've donated more than $1 million to the Mile High United Way. PCL came in 29th on this year's Fortune magazine list. Well, today is Wellness Wednesday, and we want to talk about a chronic disease that's becoming an epidemic in America. Diabetes affects more than 20 million Americans, and more than 40 million Americans are pre-diabetic or early type 2 diabetics. People with, of course, they have the high blood sugar because their body cannot move sugar into fat, the liver, and the muscle cells where it can be used as fuel. So they must take insulin to keep their diabetes under control. But if there's too much insulin in the body, a person can go into shock. So one of Colorado's best inventors has come up with a way to prevent that from happening. Dan Lefevre created the Insucozi. He is here to tell us a little bit about how it works. And Dan, you brought your daughter Molly with us this afternoon. Thanks so much for being here on Colorado's Best. Did I say it right? Insucozi?
Yep.
Okay,
yep,
so
that's right.
Tell us, Dan, I know you have a very personal story as to why you invented this. Can you tell us about that first?
Yeah, Molly's mom and I were away in San Diego, and her grandfather mixed up the fast-acting and the slow-acting insulin, and she was giving basically a lethal dosage at age 5 of the wrong insulin. So I decided that there's got to be a way to identify. Right. All the vials are the same, and there's got to be a way to keep it from happening.
Now, is this, Molly, are you type 1 or type 2?
I'm type 1.
Type 1. My niece and nephew are both type 1, so I'm familiar with what you go through. Yeah, you're a trooper, honey. And so that is such a scary thing. I mean, she was given a lethal dose. Thank God she survived.
At age 5.
At age 5.
Yeah.
But what is it, Dan, that's happening? Why can people give an overdose accidentally?
The vials are the exact same shape, same size, basically the same color. One's an orange and one's a red. And they don't differentiate enough. Then there's another vial for the 24-hour insulin that's a little bit longer. It's still a glass vial, though.
Yeah. Now these are tiny little things. I'm going to ask you to hold those up, kind of to the camera, if you would, and describe how they work for us. Yes.
The red one's for fast-acting insulin.
Okay.
All right. The blue one is for the 24-hour Lantus insulin, and the yellow one is for the Humulin N. And this is a 4-hour acting insulin.
Okay, so basically it's simple color coding.
Color coding and shapes. They're all different shapes and sizes.
Now, how are you marketing this? How are you getting that out there, Dan?
We have all of our packaging in Walgreens right now, and they're sold online as well. I've done the diabetic convention here in town, and I think they're about to go into Rite Aid and the CVS.
You know, a lot of technology, comes into use. My niece and nephew now use the pump to administer. What are you using at this point, Molly?
I'm using syringes.
Okay. And that's where this really comes in, is for the syringes, right? When you're, taking your syringe and taking that insulin out of the vial.
Yep. And even on the pump, you still have the fast-acting and the slow-acting insulin vials that fill up on the pump.
Right.
So they still help out there. The FDA made us drop them from 5 feet over 100 times onto concrete to make sure that they wouldn't break, so we could say that they help protect against breaking of the insulin vial, and they do.
Right, so not only are they a color code, but those little vials are glass. And they're little, and it's easy to drop them.
Yeah.
So this protects them as well.
Yeah, they don't break very often, but I've heard stories of people breaking them in Mexico, and their trip's over. And we've broken one before at home. It's like, okay, emergency run to the pharmacy. And it's expensive, $30 to $80 a piece.
What kind of responses are you getting from people over your invention? Because like you said, this happened with close family members. Everyone kind of has to be educated, not just the parents, the aunts and uncles, the grandparents. Everyone in the family's got to know what they're doing.
Yeah, and that's, caregivers all over the world who are helping out a diabetic patient. Diabetes, you start losing your eyesight as you get older a little bit if you haven't taken care of it. These help the caregivers as well.
Now, Molly, do you have brothers and sisters?
I have a little brother named Indy.
Oh, how old is he?
He's 4.
Okay, so one of these days he's going to have to learn about it too, right?
Yeah.
And I'm sure you're going to be able to teach him a few things about this color coding.
Yeah. He's I've been testing once, and he'll be like, "What are you doing?" And
You're like, this is the Insucozi.
to
Dad
say-
invented it.
They don't really care too much about it.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool, though, that your dad invented that, don't you think?
It's
Very impressive, Dan.
interesting.
It really is. And I'm so glad you're already selling them at Walgreens. But people, of course, can get more information by going to your website.
Yeah, insucozi.com.
Insucozi.com. And you've just begun, but I see big things for you because, as you said, this is an epidemic, unfortunately. But people do need to be educated. They do need to be extremely careful with this insulin. So go to insucozi.com. Check it out for your own family. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Molly.
Thank you.
Well, if you've got a great idea for a product, visit inventorsroundtable.com. They've helped dozens of local inventors successfully enter the marketplace over the last 6 years. They meet every month in Denver, in Loveland, also Colorado Springs. They also travel all over the state holding inventor boot camps. Inventorsroundtable.com. Coming up on Colorado's Best, does your home feel cold and drafty all the time? The problem